this next segment in prone back is to bring more specificity to the yang bladder channel. So we were talking briefly about the beginning of the bladder meridian and how it starts on the inner corner of the eye and it comes over the head. And the uniqueness of the bladder channel is that it's the longest channel in the body, but it's the only meridian that splits in two. So once it gets below the head, the skull, the occipital ridge, it splits into two parallel lines that run down through the sacrum, through the gluteals, through the hamstrings, through the gastroc, on the outside of the foot. So what we're going to be particular to in this segment is doing specific pressure into the tsubos that run on these two parallel lines on either side of the spine, and they're called the inner and outer bladder meridian. Okay, so how to measure and to locate this the inner and outer bladder meridian takes us to what we call in Chinese medicine a sun, T-S-U-N, pronounced sun, and it means body inch in Chinese. And so when you're looking at reference books, or if someone is telling you how to locate a specific tsubo or some portion of the meridian, they might say that the inner bladder meridian is 1.5 sun lateral of the spine. So we have to determine what a sun is. So in Chinese medicine they give this distinction of a sun is the widest portion of your thumb. So that's one sun. What happened?
Your stomach.
Oh, that's to be expected after today. Gastric indulgence today. So, and also, and then there's also, you'll see 1 sun, 1.5 sun, which is 2 of your finger widths, of the index finger and the middle finger, or 3 sun, which is double this, or 4 fingers. So the measurement that we're going to be concerned with today is for the inner bladder meridian, it's 1.5 sun lateral of the center of the spine. So what you need to do is find the spinous process, and from the center of the spinous process out laterally, using this measurement, is where the inner bladder meridian is. But to make it specific to the person you're working on, it's not your 2 finger widths, it's their 2 finger widths. So, stick your fingers out. So you have to measure and then transfer that angle, that width. If yours are wider or smaller, you have to make a slight adjustment. That's how you make it specific to the person you're working on. You can't just use yours. So inner bladder meridian is 1.5 sun lateral, and the outer bladder meridian, and we're going to apply digital compression to both of these in this segment, is 3 sun or 4 finger widths lateral. And again, that's 4 of their finger widths. So here, mine's a little wider, so when I do the measurement, I'll just come in a little bit. And that's where the inner and where the outer bladder meridian will be. May I pull your shirt up a little bit? You mind? So, come closer. So to make this a little easier too, you'll find that the inner bladder meridian, see, here's the spine, 2 finger widths, it pretty much puts you in the laminar groove. Okay. The outer bladder meridian, when you measure 4 finger widths, and I have to come in a little bit because a little wider, is on the lateral border of longissimus, the most prominent of the erectors. So you could use that bony and muscular landmark to find the inner and outer bladder meridian measurement. Okay, so do measure, but then also know that for a pretty close proximity of where the inner and outer bladder meridian is using the spine and coming out and into the laminar groove for the inner. That's why when we're using the elbow tip, we're starting to open up that inner bladder meridian in the laminar groove. Particularly if you have really pointy elbows, it works great. Does anyone have like really?
Yeah, this one right. I love it, like surprise.
What? So here's the deal. So we're going to take the time to measure that just so you can use that. And then when we come to, so we've already loosened the whole back. We're going to come in and apply digital compression to inner, all the way down and including the sacrum, and then the outer, which is in the lateral border of longissimus. So in applying shiatsu, we want, again, not apply it so that we have such hyperextension in the thumb, but more so just behind the tip of the thumb, so that when you lean in, your joints of your thumb are lined up so that you're not hyperextending any of the joints. And also that provides a clearer pathway for your energy to go into the person. So your joints are stacked up so that it can utilize your body weight a little bit more. Every bend you put into it, more resistance, and it affects more of the muscles, and it also sort of deadens your sense of palpation. So this is bilateral stimulation. So we're going to start at the top of the shoulders, feel for the spinous process, have the person inhale, and move out into the laminar groove, exhale, sink in. Now the points themselves are in between the ribs. Okay, the acupressure points, the acupuncture points, they're not on over the bone, but they're in between the ribs. So if you use the spinous process to go out laterally, that'll put you right in between the ribs every time. Because if you're familiar with the body of the vertebrae, the articulation, if you use the spinous process and go out, you go in between the ribs. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to inhale, go out into the laminar groove, sink in. Now, hopefully you'll see my arms are relatively straight, and I'm not forcing, I'm just leaning in. This is called perpendicular pressure. And then I keep my hands as open as possible so that there's the least amount of tension. It's sort of like a snowshoe effect. They say that it dissipates all the pressure into your rest of your hand, so it's not just creates so much tightness in your thumbs. So you just take that all the way down on to exhale. Take the time to come back to the spine, feel the spinous process go out, sink in. That as you start to get the rhythm of this, and you feel that you're exhaling nicely on the as you're leaning in, you want to bring your attention to the amount of pressure you're using on your thumbs. So you want to try to exercise relatively even pressure on both thumbs, just like when we were doing a palmar compression on the back. You want to take that down and keep yourself over your work as much as possible. So when you're doing this, you don't want to be way back here, but you want to be over your work. Right? So and as you're moving down, you take it right onto and include the sacrum. Now, visualize the structure of the sacrum. Okay, so you got that? So there's 4 holes or foramen in the sacrum, and that's where the nerves pass through, right, to affect the lower body. Well, in those 4 foramen are acupressure points in every foramen. So you use that as a guide. So when you come down on the sacrum, you feel for the center or the spine of the sacrum. And then you just come lateral and you feel the indentations. You want to go right into those. Okay? And because it's a triangle, you come down, you'll notice that as you come down a little bit, the holes get a little closer. So you want to take and feel those 4 and just take it all the way down. Okay? So that's inner bladder meridian. Through the laminar groove, onto the sacrum, into the foramen.
The points are not at every spinous process. It's like every couple of them.
No, they're pretty much all the way down.
Oh.
So now the outer bladder, so this pressure was straight down for inner bladder meridian, just straight down on your exhale. Now the outer bladder meridian, again, is on pretty much the lateral border of longissimus. And when you look at the anatomy, that always falls just on the inside of the scapula. So here's, let me just put this on here. So here's the contour of the scapula. and here's longissimus, right? So you want to come into the lateral border of longissimus. So you start again at the top, and you want to come out laterally, and rather than press straight down, this is more coming into the body at a 45-degree angle. So you want to come in like that. And again, it's the same approach where your arms are straight and you're just leaning in. Okay. Now I want you to try it this and take this all the way down to the hip. So I want you to try it that way. And then also, there's a way of doing this that might be better for you. Is that if you're working from the side and you want to do the inner bladder meridian, you can feel for the spine and then reach across and lean in. And this is something, like you said, Amy, with the elbow, where you're utilizing your body weight a little bit more. So this goes into the inner bladder meridian nice this way. So you can use your body weight, you're not over the person, it might be easier for you. But also, too, you have the advantage of coming here and doing the lateral border of longissimus on the side that's closest to you, by just leaning right in. So it's sort of interesting. You can get the inner on this side and the outer of the other one on this side, and then you'd have to switch. But it might be better utilization of your own body weight. But I'd like you to try that first one where you do inner and outer down, include the sacrum in a more straddled position. And then come and try and see if this is more effective for you body mechanic-wise, but also the sense of engagement for the person. So you engage the person in this, asking them how the pressure is, or if they feel the difference coming in more into this lateral aspect from this direction. Okay, because it's the bladder meridian is very important meridian, and one thing is that I said that the meridian, the yang meridian, splits in two. Okay, so there's two parallel lines on either side. Now the inner bladder meridian has what's called associated points on it. Okay, associated points. So the associated points, when you stimulate them, it's like it affects all the organs in the body. Okay, because look at how close you are to the central nervous system, right? You're right by the central nervous system, so there's all these pathways that go from these points that affect the organs directly. So in that handout I sent you about associated points, it shows what point is associated with what organ. Now, and that's something for you to look into yourself on whatever level, if you're going to use that in your work. But know that when you do the inner bladder meridian, it affects all the organs in the body. So it's a very powerful treatment. That's why seated massage is good, because it's all about bladder meridian, mostly in the back area. So, and that's very beneficial. It's very good loosening, but also it hits those associated points, which affects all the organs in the body.
And then, did you say like the kidney meridian, the source point affects all the other organs?
The source points, so there's one tsubo, which is considered a source point on every meridian. And that is called, and that affects the overall balance of the energy. And it can do that because that source point is connected to the kidneys. The kidneys hold all your energy in your body, both prenatal and postnatal. So it's like a reservoir of energy. So if you need more energy, you can take it. If you want to put some energy into it, because there's too much in this meridian, it'll go into the kidneys. Okay, but these associated points are tsubos, but they're not source points, but they have direct correlation to affect all the organs in the body because of their close proximity to the central nervous system via nerves that affect the organs directly. So it's very beneficial to work the associated points. Okay, any questions? We try. Thank you.